If you're anything like me and you're feeling completely overwhelmed with your new MPC, don't worry, I'll show you how to get up and going and help you make your very first beat. In this video, I'll walk you through the exact steps to make your first simple beat loop on the MPC 1 Plus. Here's what we'll cover: loading sounds onto your pads, creating a basic drum loop, layering sounds to build your beat, and then how to save your project. I'm going to keep things extremely simple, so you'll go from staring at your MPC like it's some kind of mystery box to making your very first beat. All right, so let's get started. We're gonna go to empty project. And now we're at our main screen of our new project. So just to keep things super simple, we're not gonna look at every single option you can do here because there's a lot and it is overwhelming. So we're just trying to get up and running, get our first little loop going, and play with the pads and get some sounds going. So we'll just keep it simple. So top row here, that's our sequence. That's kind of our main package here. So we'll start by naming. You want to name everything you do, or else you're just going to get lost and confused. So we'll just say demo 1. Okay, and then next, you have your beats per minute. It's kind of just the speed of your song. You can change that to whatever you want. We'll leave it at 120. Next, we have bars. It's at 2. You can change that to whatever you want as well, but we'll just leave it at 2. Here you can turn on or off the loop function. Obviously, if it's on, then it's just gonna keep repeating in a loop the 2 bars that you just made. If you take it off, it will just play from start to finish. The next here, this is gonna name our what we're about to do. So I want to start with drums. So we'll name that. We'll go drums. Go back to our main page. Once again, there's a ton of things you can do here. But for the sake of keeping this simple, we're just going to stick to the pads here. We have drums, and now we want to add sounds to the pads in order to play our drums. And as you can see, we don't have any sound. So how do we go about getting sounds onto the pads is the next step. So if you go to this browse button here, you'll see that in this section here, the drums with the pads, there's preloaded sound kits within the MPC 1 Plus. It comes stock with the machine, and you can go through them and just pick kind of something that you like, something that sounds good to you. So we'll just fling through them and pick something here. Okay, that sounds kind of cool. So I click the wheel and it loads it in, and that's it. So we'll go back to our main page. And now if we click on this, you'll see that I just scrolled down on the dial. Now there's the option of what we just loaded into. And now we have sound. Right on. We're getting somewhere. Okay, so now that we have sound on the pads, let's try and record our first little loop, a little drum loop. So first we need to kind of come up with an idea. So we'll just do like a... Okay, we'll do something like that. So I should mention before we start recording, there's a spot up here that says TC and a 1/16. That's time correct. Click on that. This is just going, if you're screwing up what you're putting into the pads with your timing, this is kind of will correct it. It will nudge the beat forward or back to be in line with where it should be according to the division that you selected. So I'm going to click 1/4. This is what I want. And we'll stick with that and we'll leave it on. And just to be clear, that means we've chosen a 2-bar loop. This is 1 bar, 2 bar. So within that bar, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to try and time correct to each one of those divisions within the bars. That's what it's going to try and do. So if I screw up and I hit it in the middle here or whatever, it's just going to move it into the correct spot and make it essentially perfect. So we'll go back, get our timing correct on at 1/4, everything's set up. So now we want to record. We have our idea, we're going to do something like that. Okay, so we'll hit record and then we'll hit play start. When you hit play start, it's going to time you in. You'll hear 4 little ticks. So it'll go tick, 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 and then it will start recording. So just keep that in mind. Play start. There we go. We've made our first little drum loop right on. So now we want to add layers on top of that. What else can we add to our drums and how do we do that? So it's nice to kind of just keep playing it and then you can mess around with the pads and see what you want to add into it. Okay, simple. We'll just add something like that in. So if we want to add into our current loop we've already made, we'll hit overdub. And now anything that I hit now is going to record into it. So we kind of want to just wait for a good spot. There, so we just added a little extra to it. So how can we add something more? So don't forget when you hit overdub, remember to turn it off because I don't know how many times I've left that on and just started doing other things and then I recorded it into my loop and it was tough to fix after that. I should mention that there is this button right here is it should be made of gold because this will save you so many times. It's called the undo button. So if you screw something up, you can just hit undo and it will erase the last thing. But if you do, like 100 things, it's kind of hard to recover from that. So just keep that in mind. That's a good button to have. Okay, so we got a good little loop going on here. So let's add one more thing to it. So that's kind of cool. We'll add a little, little vibe over it. So we'll hit overdub and I'll just add this when it comes back around to number 1. That's it. It's simple. All right. It's kind of cool, right? All right. So there you go. You've made your first little loop, a little 2-bar loop, and now you want to save it. You want to make sure that you don't lose it. So we'll go up here to the little house symbol and you'll see save project as, and we'll save it right here and we'll just put demo number 1. Save. Perfect. All right, there you go. Congratulations. You just made your first loop on the MPC One Plus. It's as simple as that. As simple as loading some sounds, creating a drum loop, and layering some more sounds on top of it, and then saving your project. This process is really, the foundation of everything else. So try to keep it as just bare bones simple as possible because it can get very confusing and overwhelming, and there's a lot of things you can do with this machine. So this is how you can make your first loop and build from there. All right, so if you're ready to add another tool to the tool belt and start building your skills with the MPC, then check out my next video here, and I'll show you how you can add really cool samples using a website called Splice.